And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? Welcome back to StillerBros at the Movies, where today we're a little late on this one, but nonetheless, Masters of the Universe. So, just to get this out of the way immediately, we're not part of the Masters of the Universe fandom. We've never watched the original series. We've never watched the old remake that they put on Cartoon Network back in the early 80s. We claim no ownership over this franchise. If there's a thing in this movie that is wrong, even something as simple as, wait, but that guy's robot hand is supposed to be on the left hand, not the right hand, this entire movie has been ruined for us, then no, that's not what you're going to get from this. Up until this moment, our biggest exposure to the Masters of the Universe franchise has been Kevin Smith's revival on Netflix from a couple of years ago, which we saw and liked, despite having never seen the original series, so it was kind of jumping in with no context. The She-Ra and the Princesses of Power show for Netflix, which we saw and loved because I honestly think N.D. Stevenson is a brilliant writer, and I loved the show. Oh, and it turned me on to a lot of his other works. And the memes and Robot Chicken sketches.
By the power of Grayskull, I have the power!
Hey, could you not have the power at 3 a.m.? Some of us have to wake up in 3 hours, for sake!
Yeah, once again, we are not in an age group that would have been nostalgic for He-Man, and we're not even in an age group where our parents would have sat us down in front of He-Man and been like, we watched this growing up and now you have to watch it growing up. No, we were at a point where the franchise was kind of in stasis. The toys weren't really a thing that was in our line of sight ever, and that's the thing. He-Man is basically a big commercial. It was one of the many, many toy-centric animated series that was coming out in the 80s. And one of the things that it really is a big focus on in most animation retrospectives is the fact that most of the best cartoons of the early 90s were basically made by cartoonists that were fighting against the idea of making another Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, what have you, where they needed to conform the character designs to an action figure. Probably one of the only good things that Ronald Reagan is tangentially responsible for. But the important thing is that Masters of the Universe has been a franchise that when the early aughties and the 2010s and now the 2020s came about, everybody and the nostalgia bandwagon started to become a thing that studios chased. Of course, Masters of the Universe was a thing that was going to get jumped on. So this movie, Masters of the Universe, or He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, I'm not quite sure if that's an international release or something. I think that's an international thing. As far as I know, this movie is just called Masters of the Universe in America. But either way, this movie has been in some sort of development for almost a decade at this point. 20 years, actually. Yeah. Ever since the Dolph Lundgren movie came out in 86, there has been some kind of form of, let's try to get He-Man back on the big screen. But the last 20 years, there's just been a lot of starts and stops. A lot of different directors have been eyed for the project. Rian Johnson was on the list at one point, which I would be like, that would be an interesting choice, but this doesn't really feel like something Rian Johnson would be a part of. One big noteworthy one was the Nee brothers, who, if you don't know, are the guys who did that Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum vehicle, The Lost City, a couple years back. But they ended up stepping away. This movie went through so much development hell, whether it be writers, directors, actors, studios. Yeah, the version we have now is from MGM Studios, which in the time since this movie started any kind of development has been bought out by Amazon, and it's directed by Travis Knight, the head of Leica Animation and the director of Kubo and the Two Strings, Bumblebee, and the upcoming Wildwood. Yes. And playing the role of He-Man is Nicholas Galantine, who is probably best known these days for his role in Red, White, and Royal Blue. He was the British one. I figured, but still. Yeah. And along with the fact that we have Camila Mendes for the role of Tila, Idris Elba playing the role of Man-at-Arms, and playing Skeletor is Jared Leto. And of course, Jared Leto has to do that thing that he did last time he played a mostly mo-capped villain in a movie, where he, for some incredibly stupid reason, does a British accent.
You may have the power, but you're too scared to use it.
Even though the original version didn't have a reason to have a British accent. But he is now the second actor to play both Skeletor and the Joker, and he's also the worst one to play both those characters. The worst actor to play both those characters. No matter how this turns out, that's the thing, because it's just still Jared Leto. Yeah. And we should probably let everybody know that we are seeing this movie in spite of Jared Leto, not because of him. Yes. But either way, yeah, this seems like a big, epic movie that also knows how stupid it is. Because there's a huge chunk of this movie that kind of does the whole thing where it's like, oh, by the way, we're going to spend a lot of time in the real world, like our world and stuff like that. I mean, the advertisements, I don't know what to make of the movie just based off the advertisements, because it seems to show a lot of the same stuff that we've seen. We don't get really much of the fact that Alison Brie is in this movie as Evil Lynn. Yes, Alison Brie as Evil Lynn. What were we talking about? But really, the advertisements haven't shown us a lot of different stuff. Yeah, it's mostly the same handful of action scenes, mostly the same kind of little character bits. Not even character bits, because it mostly feels like the advertisements are just like, action stuff you would like, action stuff you would like. Here's a quick little quip that because we're in the 2020s and everybody still makes these quippy movies that are kind of being like, we know how ridiculous this is, because Marvel's done this, and even they're not as quippy as they used to be. But the important thing about this is that He-Man as a franchise is still standing. So this is one of those times where we're going to see a movie a week after it came out. We know for a fact that this did decently, but not probably as well as the creators wanted it to. No, a movie that cost like $200 million to make, and that making $30 million on its opening weekend nowadays is not great. Especially when it feels like you're losing to a group of YouTubers that just suddenly got movies made. And it did open at like number 3, and number 1 was a garbage movie we will never see. Yeah, but either way, if there's one thing I'm looking forward to, it's a Daniel Pemberton score. Because Daniel Pemberton, ever since the first Spider-Verse movie, has been one of those composers that I'm just like, wow, that is amazing. Yeah, and more importantly, we're just kind of interested to see this, even if it is just kind of, I don't know, it's an interesting idea, and he had to try doing this. I don't know what it's going to be. We have no expectations because there is so little of the franchise that we have seen and legitimately felt compelled to watch every bit of. Yeah, but more importantly, it's just like, I don't know, it looks like an interesting movie. Some people have been saying, yeah, it's better than you would think it is. We've seen some people's reactions, and some people are pretty into it. A lot of critics that we particularly like have said that they like it. Others that have said that it's mostly meh. We're going to go in with an open enough mind to see what we feel about it. But yeah, we have no attachment to He-Man as a franchise. If this is an absolute you killed my childhood kind of movie, I don't know what to tell you guys, because we have no expectations when it comes to that. No. And so, yeah, see you after the jump. So, I think that was fine for the most part. It was pretty okay. Like, I'm not gonna go singing its praises or defending it or anything. It was pretty okay. It was pretty fine. I'll probably forget most of it by tomorrow. Yeah. In its best and worst moments, it resembled a more expensive episode of Power Rangers, if that makes any sense at all. Knowing what we know about this franchise helped with some of the Easter eggs. When it comes to the moments that make up this movie and make it good, there's moments that feel a little tacked on, moments that feel a little weird, and then there's moments that feel like, okay, you nailed it, or you're working at something and you got exactly what you wanted out of it. The thing of it is that the more creative moments in it are basically the action scenes and, weirdly, all the stuff with Jared Leto as Skeletor. Yeah, Jared Leto as Skeletor was actually kind of a standout. Really, I felt like this was really, really long. Yeah, the fact that this is a 2-hour movie, it takes 20 minutes before the movie actually starts to be like, okay, here's the plot, and like we get like it's like the prologue-y bits in Eternia go on for a while, and then once we get into like the meat and bones of the movie where we're actually in the present time, it just feels like it feels like it's an instant before we actually get to back to Eternia, and then suddenly we are back in Eternia. We're almost forgetting the stuff that was in the real world. We forget most of the real world bits pretty easily. It's weird. And it almost would have been better if it had been an amnesia storyline, where instead of Adam having been on this quest to find the sword for 15 years so that he can get back to Eternia, he just totally forgot about where he came from, and he had to relearn it. Because the entire character arc for Adam in this movie is essentially learning how to be He-Man, which makes sense as a character arc if you're going to do something like that. But if the thing that it really would have made a lot of sense if it was just like Eternia was a dream. Was more of a dream he had one night, and then suddenly, oh, it's real, instead of just, oh, I was like 10 when I left, and now I'm here. And I can't stop telling literally everybody in my life, no matter how insane it sounds, that I'm some kind of interdimensional spaceman who lives on a planet full of barbarians, and now I live in the real world and have a real job where I talk to real people all the time, but I sound crazy. Yeah. But there's also the fact that the effects are really good. Like, the animation on Skeletor is one of the highlights of the movie, because because it really brings the performance to life. You kind of have to give it to them that they have to put emotion on a skull, because, most of the emotion in a face is coming from skin and muscles, whereas it's a skull with red eyes. And the fact that they give it energy and like comic timing and everything like that, it's really, really, really good. But it's also the fact that the CGI also occasionally is not that great. And I think most of it is the fact that they are counting on the fact that this is supposed to be like a kind of Flash Gordon-y, cheesy sci-fi movie kind of thing. And it nails that from time to time. To the point that Daniel Pemberton's score even managed to call Brian May in to play guitar on the lead track. Your score is face-meltingly awesome when you're crediting one of the greatest rock guitarists alive. But another one of the highlights is the fact that a good chunk of the characters are practical effects. I really liked the fact when they were on practical sets with all this practical stuff to them, it really looked cool. Like when you've got like Moss Man or Fisto or Ram Man, or characters who are almost 100% practical and standing right on the screen, you know that it's like, okay, somebody put a lot of effort into this and made it look good. And Nicholas Gaitelzine really sold it as He-Man, especially because even if there was a few times where I was like, you put a lot of layers on him to make him look like you didn't get jacked for this movie. Yeah, and Camila Mendes, I wish she had more to do. Yeah, which I think is the problem that a lot of people would have with Teela if you were watching the show today. Which is why when they did the Masters of the Universe reboot on Netflix, a lot of people were pissed because Teela became basically the central character for most of it. And then there's just stuff like the humor is very hit or miss. Like, it's a lot of quipping and a lot of stuff. A lot of, we know this is stupid, to the point that literally every single one of the main characters' marketable names is basically attributed to the fact that Adam was 10 years old when he left Eternia, and so he gave every one of his friends and protectors and people who he remembers from his time there with these like dumb nicknames that he would give them.
And once or twice there is a shot that is like, oh right, this was based off of what was essentially a glorified toy commercial.
Just like, buy it now! Buy it now! But I can't say that it was a terrible viewing experience.
No, it was a fine way to spend an evening. I'm not knocking it, but yeah, it was a whatever time.
Yeah,
Travis Knight has been able to do 2 80s Toys franchise movies fairly well. Obviously,
Bumblebee was better though.
Yeah, Bumblebee was eons better, but obviously the high fantasy stuff he's doing at Leica is a lot more interesting and cool and enjoyable. I can't wait to see Wildwood.
It's not controversial to say that of the 2 movies Travis Knight is putting out this year, Wildwood is the one we're looking forward to more.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, you can definitely tell that somebody put a lot of love into this, even if the love felt a little weirdly empty in places.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is fine. I'm not gonna rush to see it again. I'm probably not gonna remember more than just a couple of the more interesting bits in the morning.
If there's a sequel, we'll probably check it out.
Especially considering who they tease in the mid-credit scene. And you know what? We'll spoil it for you.
Hey, Adora. How's it hanging?
But yeah.
Yeah,
there's not a lot to talk about because we're not
we're not diehards.
We can't talk for hours and hours and hours about the details in every single costume. We can't say that it killed our childhood because XYZ or whatever.
We can't go on and on about the mythology or any greater stuff it explores.
So yeah, I don't know. But you know what will be something that we can go on and on and on about next time. But for right now, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to leave in the comments what you may or may not have thought of Masters of the Universe. And don't forget to tune in next time when you are a toy! You're not the real puzzle, you're an action figure! You are a child's plaything!
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Farewell.
Yeah, well, good riddance, you loony.
I have the power!
But do you have the remote? I was just joking. I thought it'd be, Anyway, you're busy.